Kratos was destined to bring about change so severe that it would shake the very pillars of Mount Olympus. His death was something that I could not allow.
Submit! I would rather die!
This is not the end.
Who are you?
I am the Titan Gaia, ever-present Mother of Earth. I have watched you become a powerful warrior, and I have been with you through all the events of your life. But I can no longer simply watch. We will help you defeat Zeus.
But our brothers are dead.
You are no longer a god, Kratos.
I offer you the Blade of Olympus. Drain your godly powers into the sword, Kratos.
Zeus, Olympus, and the blade which holds all your power will forevermore be out of reach. I will show you the way to the Sisters of Fate. Only with their power will you defeat Zeus. My Titan brother slumbers deep inside his mountain prison. It is time he was awakened.
Servant of Zeus.
Release me from my torment!
You have freed Prometheus. Kratos, behold the island of creation. Home to the Sisters of Fate. The path to your true destiny begins. The island is fraught with danger. It was created to prevent all from reaching the three Sisters of Fate. The power of the Sisters will allow you to return to that moment when Zeus betrayed and killed you, Kratos, thus changing your fate and the fate of others.
Welcome everyone to more Let's Play God of War 2. We have arrived. Welcome to the Island of Creation, the Pandora's Temple of God of War 2. And we got here, 2 episodes earlier than we did the main location in God of War 1? Unlike Pandora's Temple, the Island of Creation isn't really going to feel like a massive dungeon at all. It's actually going to feel like a robust, interesting, diverse environment because it is. One of the big complaints of the original God of War is just how samey Pandora's Temple felt, and the Island of Creation in the Island of Creation really just doesn't do that. It doesn't feel samey at all. And when it starts to feel a little bit samey is when the environment is going to change up on you in unexpected ways. So, welcome to the Island of Creation. It is a wonderful, diverse, excellent location to set the brunt of Kratos' second main adventure. It's an excellent environment. I love looking at it. It is so lush and diverse, and the art style here is so impressive compared to Pandora's Temple in God of War 1. Not that that place was awful by any stretch of the imagination, it's just comparatively, I like the Island of Creation more. It's really special. It's a really excellent setting for the brunt of our adventure here in God of War 2. The Island of Creation, interestingly enough, is located at the very edge of the world. See, the world in the God of War franchise is, according to Cory Barlog anyway, a flat Earth. So you flat earthers out there, congratulations. At least one universe is in fact comprised of flat Earths. In this case, the Greek the Greek world of God of War, the God of War Greek saga, takes place on a flat Earth, with Hades located below, the Kingdom of Olympus located above, and the Island of Creation located at the very, very, very far edge of the Earth. This place is so far removed that it takes, in the novelization anyway, 6 days for Kratos to get here from Typhon's Cavern, which was a place that was already in and of itself pretty far removed. This is our first encounter with hounds. I died to them because they overwhelmed me, because I didn't do a good job of grabbing them and tossing them into other hounds. You don't have as much control over where Kratos can throw hounds in God of War 2 as opposed to other titles, but you do get some control, so try to aim towards the other dogs so that Kratos stuns them and they don't overwhelm him and get you killed like I did. Like, that was a good throw. I got a lot of dogs with that one throw. Also, take advantage of the fact that this arena is actually pretty big, so, make use of the space to get away from the dogs if you can, and, grab one, kick him into the others, and you'll be good. It's not that difficult to fight. I did die there, but it's not that difficult to fight. So that's the only death of this entire video. I did a really good job in this playthrough of God of War 2, I have to say. I did way better than I was expecting, considering God of War 2 Titan mode is, I think, more difficult than God of War 1 Titan mode, for the most part. There's some parts that are easier, some parts that are more difficult. Overall, I would say it's more difficult to do God of War 2 in the highest difficulty and God of War 1 in the highest difficulty. But that's just me. But I did a really, really good job in this playthrough. I did not die nearly as much as I thought I was going to. I was definitely sure that I was going to die more in this than I did in the original God of War, and I died a lot in the original God of War thanks to that stupid final Ares fight. But I didn't, and it's actually really impressive. It's the only death in this video, and this video includes the Theseus boss fight, which is really cool because I didn't die at the Theseus boss fight at all. Now, I did have to practice a lot more for the Theseus boss fight. Like, I stopped the session midway through and did an entire practice hour where I just practiced Theseus because I was really, really nervous for Theseus. And we'll talk about why I was nervous for Theseus and why many people should be nervous for Theseus at the highest difficulty. But when it actually came time to record and, actually play officially, for the record, I actually kicked his butt in one go, which is really, really cool. I couldn't believe I did that. Couldn't believe I did that for a lot of things in this game. I had a really, really excellent run with this, and with God of War 3, but we'll talk about God of War 3 much later on, obviously. For now, you saw me attack all those skeletons that were hanging. You have to attack all those skeletons that were hanging around because you want to find the one dead body that you can use as a counterweight for this button here. So in the previous room with the hounds, go ahead and just attack all the skeletons. Eventually, you'll find one that, falls limply to the ground, and you can use that body as a counterweight for this little puzzle here to open the door. This is timed, but now that you have that counterweight, it's going to be it's just a matter of getting through this second door here, and that's that. Simple puzzle, but you need to make sure you find the dead body to use as a counterweight. Now we're about to have a very big cutscene with Gaia and her backstory, so here we go.
You must find a way across to the island, Kratos, for there lies your path to the Sisters of Fate.
Why do you aid me, Gaia?
Zeus must be stopped, Kratos. The story of revenge has been told before. You know of the mighty Titan Kronos. So fearful was Kronos of the Oracle's prediction that his own children would rise against him, that he decided to imprison them all in his belly. Rhea stood by and watched as her children were devoured one by one. But when the time came for the last of her children to be eaten, she was unable to bear another such loss, and devised a trick to save the baby Zeus. Rhea commanded the eagle to secret her son away. He was taken to an island far beyond the watchful eyes of Kronos. was I who cared for him. It was I who kept him safe. I nurtured his desire to free his brothers and sisters from Kronos. But my foolish act of compassion would haunt the Titans forever. For in sparing Zeus, we allowed him to return to us with vengeance in his heart. He betrayed all of the Titans for the sins of just one. The sins of his father, Kronos.
Very, very well done. A very, very well told story of the myth of Kronos being afraid of being overthrown by his children, so he ate them, and Zeus escaped and grew up. It's a really well told version of that story, and it plays well into the unique aspects of the myth that come from Kratos being involved, which we'll get into later. But it's really well done. I really enjoy what they did with the telling of the story of baby Zeus. For now, though, we have a Cerberus fight. This is a basic Cerberus. There's more annoying versions of the Cerberus that we're going to encounter later on. Actually, the versions from God of War 1 are the more annoying Cerberus that we'll be encountering much later on. This Cerberus here is a very basic version. It doesn't have very many attacks at all. It has no ranged attacks for starters. It just runs up at you and tries to ram you with its head or slam you with its claws. You can block both. You can't parry anything because you still don't have the parry. You're not going to have the parry for a while, but you can block everything it does. So if you feel like you're getting overwhelmed, just block and just wait for an opening, because there is nothing that these dogs can do that cannot be blocked, which is good. All we're doing is just laying enough damage to the Cerberus to get more QTEs, to get more QTE circle prompts. We actually missed the second circle prompt to cut off his second head. I believe that means that we're actually going to skip cutting off his second head once it's time to actually kill him, which is interesting. We actually completely skipped doing the third QTE where we actually cut off his final head and kill him that way. We just kill him by just getting rid of all of his health. Kicking the dogs does a lot of damage to enemies. Throwing enemies at other enemies does a lot of damage to enemies in God of War 2 Titan mode in general, because enemies do a lot of damage, and that translates to when you throw enemies at other enemies. Again, when it comes to the basic basic enemies that we were fighting in Typhon's Cavern, they're going to be coming up a lot. We saw armored versions of them when we first got the Island of Creation. Kratos is very slow to throw them, so he is vulnerable when he grabs them and prepares to throw them. So be very, very careful of that. You have to time your throws with the basic enemies just right, otherwise you are going to be punished for trying to throw them. So when it comes to the hounds, though, the hounds it's much easier to throw them. You don't have as much control over the direction you can throw them in, but you are invincible the entire time, so you have an opportunity to lay in some damage and not get hurt yourself, as you just saw. Grabbing enemies and throwing them around is going to be your most powerful trick for a lot of the game. Actually, not for a lot of the game, grabbing enemies and tossing them around is going to be your best trick of survival and laying damage while you yourself don't take any damage. As opposed to previous God of War games, where one of our best strategies was just launching enemies up into the sky and mashing circle. And this time, it's just going to be basic attacks, and when you have an opportunity to grab, just grab. When it comes to grabbing normal enemies, be very, very careful. On regular ground combat, you're vulnerable, but in most other cases, whether it's grabbing hounds, it's grabbing enemies from the ceiling or from the wall, you are completely invincible, and thus there is no punishment for you to grab and kill enemies that way. I was very surprised with how the how my battle with Theseus went. Theseus is a boy. How do I describe this? Theseus is a roadblock, a major roadblock for players who want to do a Titan mode run that isn't bonus play, i.e., a Titan mode run where you start off, with the appropriate amount of health and magic, and you don't have access to things at the beginning of the game that you shouldn't have access to yet, as dictated by the story or by level of progression. They throw the Theseus boss fight at you so early, and in Titan mode, it is incredibly difficult. I'm already starting to talk about him now because we're already getting close to him. It is kind of disgusting how early on in the game you need to fight Theseus. And in Titan mode, where things do so much damage and you do so little damage, it is pretty outrageous just how early on you fight Theseus. You don't have access to your parries. You're not gonna be able to upgrade your magic meter in time for the Theseus fight. You've only upgraded your health once. If you've been diligently searching for all chests, you've only been able to upgrade your health once, and you're not going to be in a position where you can really upgrade your magic. Typhon's Bane is going to be good against Theseus. Again, I'm talking about him because we're getting pretty close to him at this point. Typhon's Bane is going to be good against Theseus, but there are attacks that you gain from leveling up Typhon's Bane that are even more useful against Theseus. But because we are so early on and we're not going to have an opportunity to collect enough red orbs, especially in the highest difficulty, but in any difficulty really, Theseus is really difficult. And I kept talking about Theseus. I completely skipped over the part that we were facing archers from God of War 1. That's something that I talked about in the previous video about how God of War 2 likes to mix the God of War 1 assets with the new God of War 2 assets. It's really well done how they mix and match the enemies and strategies from the original game, the enemy strategies and animations from the original game with the stuff from the new game here. So those archers, along with the new sentries, that was really fun to do. And now we have our new sirens. These new sirens are these new sirens are not that bad. They don't have serious damaging ranged attacks like the sirens from God of War 1. They are fast, they remain annoying, but they're not as deadly as they were in, say, God of War 1. We will be meeting the God of War 1 sirens later on in another video, and when we do, you will be able to compare and contrast to see how much more deadly those sirens are compared to these sirens. The puzzle of this room is very simple. It's barely a puzzle at all. Basically, just kill sirens, and when you kill a siren, Kratos is going to do a special QTE kill that is going to crack the wall that these sirens are defending. I say sirens, even though we're fighting just one, but more are going to appear. They appear in pairs. After you kill the first one, they appear in pairs. Here's the way this works. The focus on just killing one siren, because once you QTE kill one siren, the other one automatically dies. So it's not worth sharing the damage. It's not worth dispersing the damage evenly between both sirens. Pick one and kill that one, because once you do this QTE kill, the other one is going to die, as you saw, and be replaced by a fresh pair of sirens, the final pair of sirens, I believe. So for this fight, after you've killed that first initial siren, you're going to be dealing with pairs of sirens. Pick one siren and keep track of it, and just attack it. Don't disperse damage evenly, because once you kill one siren in that pair, the other one automatically dies. So every time you get a pair, just pick one and deal with that one, as I just did. The other one is going to automatically die, and we will be able to move on safely. So not that tricky, not that difficult a room, as it were. But it is something to watch out for, and something that can get you in Titan mode especially. Going through the door is our way to progress the story, but we can climb this chain for some sneaky chests. God of War 2 has a lot of sneaky chests, not nearly as as crazy with their hiding spots as God of War 1's hidden chests, but there are plenty of sneaky locations where you can find item chests like this. And I believe now we're going to get, what is that, Gorgon's Eye? Yeah. The first in our second set of Gorgon's Eyes, actually. As I said, you're not going to have an opportunity to really upgrade your health and your magic much at all before you encounter Theseus. Ooh.
The Steeds of Time, a gift from the great titan Kronos, his unsuccessful attempt to gain the favor of the Sisters of Fate, and change the destiny which the Oracle foretold.
But yeah, as I said, you're not going to have an opportunity to upgrade much of anything before you get into your first truly difficult boss encounter. The Colossus could do a lot of damage in its earlier fights with you. The Dark Rider was kind of bugged out during when you chased it along the air currents, but Theseus is genuinely an endurance test. It is an insane endurance test, and I'm going to speed up, but holy crap. It is a long, tedious fight, and I don't enjoy it at all, and I don't think many people enjoy it at all. It is one of my least favorite parts of an otherwise fantastic game. Theseus is bleh. Before we get to Theseus, welcome to the Steeds of Time. This video, we were at the Temple of Lachesis and the Steeds of Time. Those are the two main areas that we're exploring for this video. Our introduction to the island of creation. And already, we're already getting these slightly different aesthetics compared to what we were looking at when we first arrived at the island. Because again, God of War 2 knows how to pace its visuals for players. Not just pacing its combat, not just pacing its difficulty ramp ups and spikes, pacing its actual, what you're actually looking at as you're playing. Steeds of Time are really wonderful to look at. So was the Temple of Lachesis. Neither overstay their welcome. I'm stalling now. Here we go. We lower that rope. Now it's time to fight Theseus. I'm not looking forward to it at all. Neither should you in Titan difficulty. Here's the cutscene.
The ghost of Sparta. Then what they say is true. Theseus. Of all the fools who try, you would be the last I would expect to seek an audience with the Sisters of Fate. And you are the last one I would expect to become a servant of the Fates. I serve and protect the Sisters of Fate for the glory of Zeus. The time of Zeus is coming to an end. You seek the Sisters to kill Zeus. You no longer possess the powers of a god, Kratos. I doubt you're capable of killing me, let alone the king of Olympus. Let me pass, and I will let you live, old man. I do not think that is your choice to make. Come forward. Let us finally see who is the greatest warrior in all of Greece.
A contest to see who is the greatest warrior in all of Greece. This is Theseus. Okay, so phase 1 of Theseus is very straightforward. He has very, very basic attacks. You can block everything he does. He does a lot of damage in phase 1, though. His regular attacks do a lot of damage. Don't get hit by a single one of them. You cannot possibly afford to take any damage at this point. The only thing that you can afford to take damage to is this QTE thing, where he tries to spin Kratos around with his big spear. That's the only thing you can take damage from. The developers were kind enough to assume that attack is very, very difficult to react to, so that QTE attack does the least amount of damage of everything that Theseus does. But everything else, his regular jabs, his basic combos, phase 2 when he starts introducing the spikes of ice that he launches up from the ground, don't get hit by a single one of those. Those do massive damage. The QTE does barely any damage because, again, the developers were kind enough to consider that it's very difficult to react to the to the QTE in time, but everything else does massive damage. Don't take a hit from anything else because you cannot afford it. Phase 1 and Phase 2 of Theseus is the easy part. It's nothing compared to what you're going to be doing in Phase 3. When he climbs up to the top of the door, to above the alcove where the door is, this is when you've entered the final phase of the fight. This is Phase 3, divided up into 2 halves. Theseus has 2 attacks he can do from up there. He has 2 versions of tossing globs of ice at you. The fast version and the slow version that kind of homes in on you. Fast version doesn't home in on you. Slow version does home in on you. After he does that 2 times, he's going to summon a pair of Minotaurs. You'll notice that I put a Minotaur pairs count because I want to show you just how many Minotaurs it takes to actually take down Theseus. When the Minotaurs come out, stop focusing on Theseus entirely. Theseus is going to either do nothing or he's just going to hurl basic globs of ice at you, and it's not even going to be the variance from when he's by himself. When he's by himself, he either hurls them really fast or hurls them really slow, and they kind of home in. When he has the Minotaurs out on the ground, he's just going to hurl the ice in groups of 3. They loosely home in on you, but they're not that big a deal. They don't even do that much damage. They're not the worst part about this. The worst part about this is those ice spikes. Those ice spikes can kill Kratos damn near instantly, I think. You don't want to get hit by those ice spikes at all. They're the most dangerous part of the fight. You have to keep an eye on Theseus to see when he's starting to do that ice spike attack. You have to keep an eye on the Minotaurs to make sure that they are a reasonable distance from you. And you have to keep an eye on the whole arena, as a whole. Once you notice that Theseus is doing the ice spike attack, you have to keep an eye on the arena to make sure that the ice spikes aren't going to pop up where Kratos is popping up. It is an awful fight because it takes forever. And because it takes forever, there are so many opportunities for you to mess up and not pay attention to the arena, not pay attention to Theseus, not pay attention to the Minotaurs, and you get killed really, really quick. It's awful. I hate this fight so much. This fight is not fun. It is the ultimate endurance test. If you can get past this, then you're going to be good to go for the majority of the rest of God of War 2. Anytime the Minotaurs are dead, use your magic. The only thing that can reach Theseus at this point is Typhon's Bane, so you are required to use magic. When Theseus does that little animation where he yells, that is when we are at the second half of Phase 3. As you can see, nothing else that Kratos does can reach it. The only thing that can possibly reach Theseus is Typhon's Bane. And because of that, you need magic. The only way to get magic is by killing Minotaurs. So you are forced to rely upon Theseus spawning in the Minotaurs, delaying this fight even more. Again, keep an eye on Theseus to make sure he's hurling globes of ice, or keep an eye on the arena to make sure where the ice spikes are coming out. Keep an eye on the Minotaurs, because even though you can block everything they do, if you're not paying attention, they can hit you and they do a lot of damage. This fight is a slog. And I'm starting to speed up here because it takes so long. And in Titan mode, it takes so many Minotaurs. Theseus always summons them in pairs. So far, we've killed 2. Now we're focusing on the second 2, so a grand total of 4 so far. You'll see how many Minotaurs we have to kill to have just enough magic to knock Theseus down to QTE kill range. Make sure you don't waste a single speck of your magic for Phase 1 and 2 when Theseus is down on the ground fighting Kratos, like an actual fight. Because if you waste your magic when during Phase 1 and Phase 2, it's just going to delay Phase 3 even more. It's awful. Now we're speeding up even more because the Minotaurs, it just doesn't stop. Theseus has so much health and you do so little damage in Titan mode that it's not fun. The ice spikes can hurt the Minotaurs. It doesn't do that much damage to them, unfortunately, compared to the damage it does to Kratos, but it does a decent amount, enough that you can justify trying to lure the Minotaurs into the spikes. The Minotaurs have weird hitboxes with those ice spikes, so there's plenty of times when you think they should get hit, when they're not going to. It's a whole thing. I'm not a fan of this fight at all. This is our 3rd pair of Minotaurs, so after I kill this one, that will be 6 Minotaurs that I've killed, and you'd think, oh, hey, rule of 3s. Maybe now is enough. No, not yet. It's time for our 4th pair of Minotaurs. Hooray! I'm speeding up even more, because this is... It's just a slog, man. It's such a long battle. I'm speeding up a lot. This fight takes like 20 minutes. 20 minutes, is that right? I think it was closer to like 12 or 13 minutes. That's still a long time to do this Minotaur thing. And keeping an eye on everything and trying not to take damage or make mistakes, because one mistake is going to send you all the way back to the beginning. If you die, you don't respawn at Phase 3 of Theseus, or the second half of Phase 3 of Theseus, you have to do the entire battle over again, and that's not great. But at last, here we are, our 5th pair of Minotaurs. That's 10 Minotaurs dead. Theseus is a QTE kill range. Make sure you actually do the QTE from the ground, not from the air, otherwise you might waste enough time and Theseus might get back up. Don't let that happen. Now we get to the catharsis of getting to kill Theseus after the absolute BS that he put us through with his boss fight. Not a fan of it. Very cathartic to just slam his head against this door multiple times. It's... oh god, that fight. It's fine though. It's over. We get the Horsekeeper's Key, which lets us explore the Steeds of Time freely. And that's that. A very difficult battle for such an early point in the game. Compared to the Colossus, compared to the Dark Rider, Theseus is a skill check. It's an endurance check. Do you have the endurance to maintain a basic strategy and not make mistakes for a long time? If you do, then you can beat Theseus. If you don't, then you're screwed. Not a fan of it. At all. But it's done now. So we can go back to cooling off and calming down. That's going to be our last boss fight for a little bit. The next episode is not going to feature any boss fights as compared to these first 3 episodes. So now we have an opportunity to cool off, to keep focusing on upgrading our stuff, and just fight some basic enemies and explore and take in some story. So it's all good. It's all copacetic, as it were. Anyway, with the Horsekeeper's Key, we can really explore the Steeds of Time. Our goal is to get over to the front of the steeds. See, we want to actually command the steeds to move. Because the island that we initially landed at, the island that contains the Temple of Lachesis, is not the main island. It is part of the Island of Creation, but it's like an island that's like off of... it's like just a little bit off of the main island. So we're going to have to connect to the Temple of Lachesis, the area we were just at before the Steeds of Time, with the main island itself in order to actually progress forward, which is what we're going to be doing now. We're going to be doing that by having Kratos command these steeds and actually getting them to move one island closer to the other. For now, though, plenty of chests to collect, plenty of red orbs to get, plenty of ABE to do. Remember, always be exploring. That's still true in God of War 2, just as true as it was in God of War 1, in Ascension, in Chains of Olympus, in Ghost of Sparta, and in the upcoming God of War 3. You always want to be exploring. You always want to be looking for chests and little nooks and crannies, because you absolutely want to make yourself as powerful as you can, as soon as you can. And I believe we're going to have a cutscene coming up where we're actually going to be meeting up with Kronos from God of War 1. So, yeah, here we go. Enjoy.
Destiny has brought us together, warrior. Before my fall in the great war with the gods, I hid away the last remnants of my magic. For the good of the Titans, I, Kronos, now bestow what is left upon you. Use it well.
Alright, we have acquired our second piece of magic. The most useful magic in the game, it's Kronos' Rage. This is the Poseidon's Rage of God of War 2. It doesn't operate the same way as Poseidon's Rage. You can use it up to 3 times. You can use it up to 3 times at once. It creates a little orb of electricity that shoots out and attacks enemies that are nearby. you can really push up your combo to extreme levels with Kronos' Rage, especially in this opening section. There is a trophy, I believe, for getting a 500 hit combo, and you can do it here very easily, like right now. There might be a trophy for a 1,000 hit combo, but I'm not completely sure. I actually don't think God of War 2 has a trophy for a 1,000 hit combo, but regardless, if it did, there is an opportunity for that too later on in the story. So, yeah, Kronos' Rage, fantastic. I'm gonna be relying on it quite a bit. Got to be careful with it though, because we don't have that much magic to work with at this point of the game. So we need to make sure that when we do use Kronos' Rage, we're not wasteful with it. Because if we are, then we are really going to screw ourselves over for later encounters. I believe now we're going ahead and grabbing a chest. That is a phoenix feather. Nice. Had an airplane taken off nearby. I live near an airport. So if you heard a plane taking off, well, that's just the way it is. Like I said, gotta live with the distractions. Inconvenient, of course, when trying to record episodes, but I don't record myself that often, so it's not the worst thing that could happen. It's not ideal, but it's not the worst possible thing that could happen. Moving forward, though, this is going to be the last little bit of the video. We need to activate the steeds, and once we activate the steeds, we can move one island closer to the other and be able to make our way forward in the next video. In order to do this, we need to move these levers, find the color-coordinated button, as it were, and place the horse keeper's key that we got from Theseus into each one in order to remove these shackles that are holding back the steeds of time from doing their thing and moving around. There's a grand total of 4 of them. Not that difficult, not that much to it. Already, God of War 2 is doing a great job of its aesthetic diversity. We've only been at the steeds of time for like less than 20-30 minutes, and already we're about to be moving on to a brand new area. After we get the steeds moving, we'll already be done with this and already be running forward to our next main area. So the team behind God of War 2, Santa Monica Studio, did a great job of creating all of these diverse, interesting environments that are wonderful to look at, but you don't stay in that long. That way you don't. That way you never get bored of looking at any one thing. Which was an issue back in the original God of War, and also an issue kind of in Ghost of Sparta, at least for the very beginning of Ghost of Sparta, when you were in Atlantis and the island of Crete for so long. It took a little while before all the diversity of aesthetics in that game really shined through. Eventually it did, but you were in the island of Crete and Atlantis for a good while before moving on to different pastures, as it were. I really like the direction of the story of God of War 2. It's obvious, because they admitted it, but also just playing God of War 2 and God of War 3, that they had no idea what was going to happen for the next God of War game. They really had no idea what the next God of War game was going to be about, to the point where they were actually considering the next God of War game being this whole odyssey of Kratos exploring different religions and different mythologies already. At such an early point, it's kind of crazy to consider just what the loose plans for God of War were back in 2007 as compared to 2023. Now in 2023, it's clear what God of War looks like. We're going to be having sagas that take place in different mythologies, and we're going to really steep ourselves in that mythology until there's nothing more to say or do with it, in which case we'll then move on to the next one. But back then, that wasn't necessarily the case. I mean, they said 2 games in the Greek era, but they were all ready to start pushing away from that for God of War, for as soon as God of War 3, which is pretty crazy to consider. Regardless, though, they didn't, and the trilogy turned out to be really well regarded, really well loved. Even though I do have some issues with God of War 3. Even though I do take some issues with God of War 3, it is a fine, wonderful game and a worthy follow-up to this fantastic title, God of War 2. Actually, God of War 3, since I'm rambling about it right now. I do want to say God of War 3 has the best combat in the entire franchise. In the entire Greek franchise, anyway, because the Norse stuff is so different, it's not fair to compare one to the other. But God of War 3's combat is so good compared to 2, 1, Chains of Olympus, Ghost of Sparta, and Ascension. It's not even a contest. God of War 3 has the best combat. Anyway, we have gone ahead. We're ready to use the Steeds of Time. I will see you all next time for more Let's Play God of War 2. I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.